Hi, and welcome to our connection group. Several weeks ago, I had a thought that came to me as I was sitting and doing nothing, like a lot of us. I was wondering if there was a way we could do an online connection group, some sort of live feed or video feed or something that we could do. Since we've been apart and looks like we're going to be apart for a little bit longer, and my mind was just kind of running with different ideas, trying to figure out, could we do this or not? And after about a week of thinking about it, off and on, I had a couple of questions. First of all, my biggest question was this a Mark thing, something I just wanted to do, or was it a God thing? Was it something God was leading me to think about, to look into? And to that end, I put a little thought and prayer into it, and for about a week, 10 days, I really couldn't get a good grip on it, which direction I was going. And I know that other Sunday school groups, connection groups, I'm going to mess that up all the way through here, at our church, and even some friends of mine at other churches, they're doing different things, maybe through Facebook Live or Zoom even, some other media to get that presentation out. And this is not my deal. I know a few technical things. I'm a little bit of a nerd, but when it gets into videoing and editing and that kind of stuff, that's completely beyond me. So that was my second issue. Okay, first was, is this a God deal? Second of all, if it's a God deal, how would this work? And so I kind of set it aside because I didn't want to deal with it. After a while, I came back to it, and I thought about it a little bit longer, and I thought, okay, what if this is a God thing, and if it's something to be done, how would I do it? Do I do a video on my phone and try to figure out some way to get it out to you guys, or what? Couldn't come up with a good deal. And one night, while I was just kind of, again, thinking about it, God just kind of whispered in my ear, and he said, "Hey, Goofy, your laptop has a camera feature, and it's got a microphone. I'll bet it's even got a recording option." So I did a little research, did a little Googling, a little reading, and sure enough, my laptop camera system works. I learned how to record on it, do a little basic editing, but not anything complicated. And so I felt like maybe God was leading me into this type of deal, whether it was me who did the lessons or whatever, but giving me the idea to maybe talk with Clarence or Vic and figure out a way to do this. The second thing of how would we record this thing seemed to resolve itself. Now, if I do it, I can use my laptop. If Clarence wanted to teach the lesson, what method would he use to record a lesson, or if it was Danny or anybody else? So that's a logistic thing to figure out maybe later as time goes on. So the third thing was, assuming whoever gets this video recorded of a lesson, devotional kind of thing, whatever we put together, how do we get it to you folks? Not everybody has Facebook, so the Facebook Live option was not good. Posting it as a video on Facebook wasn't a good option because, again, a lot of y'all don't use Facebook. And then again, God just kind of whispered to me and he said, "Hey, Mark, you've got that YouTube video thing, channel where you've got some stuff." And I've got two videos, they're Texas history things, that I post in March and April for the Alamo and San Jacinto celebrations. And if I could figure out how to get the video, I could park it in my YouTube channel. That creates a link, just like any other YouTube video. That link could be disseminated to you guys, and we'd be in business. So the logistics things kind of got taken care of up to a point, and I was still kind of arguing with myself, was this a me thing or a God thing? Along about that same time, in the midst of all this, Vic and Clarence had the same conversation. Clarence wanted to know if the class would be interested in some sort of online presence for a Sunday school class, lesson, devotional kind of deal, and what. So Vic, a couple of weeks ago, put that email out to y'all, asking if you had a desire to do that, and the response was positive. And he got back with Clarence, and they talked a little more. Now, my response to Vic was, I've been thinking the same thing. I just kind of couldn't pull it all together. If it was a me thing or a God thing or how we do it, whatever. Well, the three of us have talked a couple of times since, and primarily currently because of Clarence's health situation. He's doing good, but he could do a lot better. But because of his health situation, it was kind of decided that if we wanted to get this started, and we wanted to get it started now, it would kind of fall to me at this point to kick it off. So that's kind of where we're at. It's not the church's media team, professional quality stuff. What you see is what you get. And I'm very amateurish here. My 15-year-old grandson could do a whole lot better with the technology part of it and the editing, what little may be needed. But here we are. You get what you get. It's free. You get what you pay for. With us coming together as a connection group back at church is probably the end of June, 1st of July, I think is what they're talking about now. So we've got several weeks, 6 to 8 weeks maybe, before we can come back together. So if we were going to do it, now seemed to be like a good time to do this. The lessons, at least the ones that I'll prepare, hopefully will be fairly short. Kind of more maybe a devotional type deal, maybe an actual scriptural exegesis type deal, my usual lesson format. But hopefully it'll be on a weekly basis. And the goal is to get the link to you in time so that maybe after the online worship service on Sunday morning at 9:30, it ends at 10:30, you take a little break, you come back at 11, our usual connection group time, and you watch a little bit of Sunday school. That's kind of the idea. Or you could watch it anytime because the link will stay there. That link would be sent out by Vic through the email process for the connecting to our group. It's our prayer, all of us, Clarence, Vic, and myself, that while we're apart during this pandemic, that we can still come together a little bit. It's not the same as sitting in our department and shaking hands and hugging and drinking coffee together and talking and participating, but at least it's a time that we maybe can come together, read the Word of God, have an application to our lives that will help us and get us through this time of separation. Dr. Redmond refers to us as a church separated, and that's exactly what we are. It's an unusual time. So I think God can speak to us and through us during this time, and we're going to give it a shot. So this is the premiere lesson, and we'll see how it goes. Now, what do you do when you start a good lesson? Hopefully it's a good lesson. You start with some bad jokes, and that's kind of where we are. Bad jokes. We've picked up some new words and some new language during this pandemic. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later, but I've also done a little bit of research, and I found that there are some new scientific terms, some new measurement terms that are out there. I'll give you an example. The ratio of an igloo's circumference to its diameter is known as the Eskimo pie. Told you they were bad. 2,000 pounds of Chinese soup equals 1 ton. 1/millionth of a mouthwash is 1 microscope. The time between slipping on a peel and smacking the pavement is known as 1 banana second. The weight an evangelist carries with God is measured in billigrams. Half a large intestine equals 1 semicolon. And last but not least, because these are getting old, 2,000 mockingbirds equals 2 kilomockingbirds. Yep, told you they were bad. If you want to turn with me to Psalm 139, I'm going to be reading there after a little while. And you can follow along with me. But for now, let me take you back in time. It was the middle of March. I was in Virginia visiting my son and daughter-in-law and grandson, Seth, Cooper, and Carrie. And so Seth's birthday. So we're having a good time. And suddenly the news was filled with all this stuff about this virus, this coronavirus. And the world was all in an uproar over this thing. And we just didn't know what it was going to be like, what was going to happen. It was getting scary and highly contagious. All kinds of fears. Down here in Pasadena Deer Park, people were texting and posting on Facebook and saying there's no toilet paper and there's a shortage of this and none of that. And it just kind of seemed crazy. Well, on Tuesday, March 17th, I was going to head back home. My visit was over with, and people were telling me on your way back, the panic down here, people are just bananas. So on your way back, you may want to stop somewhere on your way back from Virginia or Tennessee or even Alabama. Maybe the panic has not set in so bad there, and pick you up some toilet paper, paper towels, maybe find you some eggs, some milk, some bread, some of the basic things, because I've been gone for nearly 2 weeks and my pantry was empty. So I thought, man, people are just nuts. In a week or so, this is going to be over with, and that's kind of what we were hearing on the news up in Virginia. It was a bad deal. It's very contagious. People are in a panic, but in a week or two, it'll settle down and we'll kind of have a handle on this. We'll figure this thing out. So I started heading back home. Excuse me. Well, Tuesday night, I got as far as Lafayette, Louisiana. I drove hard that day. And I stopped at a hotel. I was told I may have a hard time finding a place to stay. And I found a hotel that was not any big deal. And when I got up the next morning, I was going to treat myself to my usual on-the-road breakfast at Cracker Barrel. So it's about straight up 8 o'clock. I pull into the Cracker Barrel in Lafayette, Louisiana, and the door's locked. Can't get in the door. There's a sign on the door, and I'm reading it, and while I'm reading it, an employee is walking up, and the sign says, "Closed to inside dining, to-go orders only." The employee comes up and says, "Can I help you, sir? Are you here to pick up an order?" And I said, "Well, I'd really like to go inside and eat breakfast." He said, "Oh, no, can't do that. It's to-go orders only. Got this virus. Everybody's dying. Everybody's contagious. Can't do it." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to get my pancakes and syrup and my eggs and bacon and my coffee and get it in a to-go box and eat it on the road. That's not going to work." So I had to make some other arrangements for my breakfast, which I did. And I thought, has the world gone mad? Even Cracker Barrel is closing to inside dining? What is going on? The world has gone crazy. And here we are, 9 or 10 weeks later, and yes, the world has gone crazy. We've lost our minds. And we don't know what to believe anymore or who to believe anymore. Almost daily, the politicians and the scientists and the medical people are reversing their stances that they had from the day before on what's right or what's wrong, masks, no masks, distancing, 6 feet, 10 feet, no feet. And everybody's got an agenda that they're trying to push through around this deal. It's just nuts. And if you watch the national news for more than 30 minutes, you will lose your sanity, because all they can talk about is everybody's dying, unemployment is never going to get any better, businesses are blowing up. It's just depressing. It's terrible. And you know that as well as I do. I'm not telling you anything. And I'm really tired of all of it. Well, as I mentioned earlier, we've added some new, excuse me, some new terms, some new language to our our vocabulary. Things like COVID-19. Until March, nobody had ever heard of this. It's a brand new term for a brand new novel virus. How about social distancing? That was new to me. N95. I'm sure that's been something in the medical field or other fields, but meant nothing to me. It does now. Wuhan. We all know where Wuhan is now. Curbside only. That changed my world. Wash your hands! Zoom. I wish I had bought Zoom stock back in January, December. I'd be very wealthy. Distance learning for our kids who are having to finish out their school year at home. And finally, telemedicine, telehealth. That was new to me. I get back from Virginia and my cholesterol and blood pressure pills need to be refilled. I called my doctor and said, I need my pills. He said, well, you can't come in, but we'll do this telemedicine. And over my phone, over a little video chat, he asked some questions. He did this, he did that. And I got my pills refilled. And some of you have probably had other things done medically over this telehealth, telemedicine stuff. And our church has gone through a transition where we used to meet probably every day. There was something going on at the church. We had 2 worship services in the morning. We had 1 at night. They probably had committee meetings. There was a Tuesday men's or business luncheon. Every day there was something going on. Now we're down to 1 online service Sunday morning, noon devotionals each day, and I'm sure maybe some committees are meeting somehow or something like that. But our world has changed as a church. As Dr. Edmond says, we're the church separated. We're not together anymore. How do you minister to a church where the people are not coming together? It's just, it's totally different. It's the new normal. And, you know, here we are 3 months into the deal and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. And through it all, especially at the beginning, I kept wondering, God, where are you? What's going on? Surely our world is, you know, it's not just America. It's worldwide. Where are you at? Why aren't we coming up with a cure? We've got scientists and medical people and biomedical people and all these. They're brilliant. Shouldn't they be able to find a cure or some relief? Our economies are melting down. People are losing their jobs. People are dying, and that's the worst part. Getting sick. First responders, medical people, they can't go see their family. They haven't seen their families and you know, to hug them, to talk to them in person for going on 3 months now. It's just crazy. It is unlike anything our world has ever experienced. And through it all, I kept asking, God, where are you? What is going on? You can't let this keep going on. It's got to end. We can't go on living like this. What are you doing and where are you at? Because I wasn't seeing any evidence that he was involved in this. It was like he had just pulled back and said, I'm going to watch how this plays out. He had removed his hand of stability from the world and everything was chaos and confusion. And one day he gave me a little sign. It wasn't anything new. It was just stuff that I hadn't thought about in a while. Kind of, you know, one of those things in the back of your head that you know, but because you don't think of it very often, you just pigeonhole it back there and you don't think about it. But he gave me a sign. He clued me into something. And it didn't answer all my questions, but it did give me a renewed confidence that things were not totally lost, that God was not totally uninvolved. I want to show you 2 pictures, and I apologize for my horrible visual aids, but as I say, this is the best I got. This is what you get. This is what you paid your money for. The first is this picture. I'm going to get it up here real close and maybe it'll, there we go. It's a picture that I took in my backyard. I was outside, it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I just snapped this picture, and all it is blue sky and some white puffy clouds. And there's a tree on the side. And it just is, you know, a view of the sky. Now here's the second photo. And this one may be a little harder to figure out. I've got some glare. I'll try to get the glare off there. It's the same view from my backyard, from the same spot, looking straight up. All those little white spots. This was at night, about 8:30 at night. And all those white spots are stars. And I bet I can't do this. This little thing through here, that's the Milky Way. It was a clear night. There were no clouds. And this is on an app I use or have on my phone for looking at the stars. And if you focus on a star or a constellation, it'll say that's Alpha Centauri or that's Pisces or whatever. So it's a helpful little deal. But I had those two pictures, and they're from the same position. One's just day, one's a couple of hours later that night. The second one, though, is entirely different because it has a different content and a different context. Millions of stars lighting up the sky, and the Milky Way in all its radiant glory with millions and millions and millions of stars. What an amazing piece of God's creation that we were looking at. Well, I told you to turn to Psalms 139, so hopefully you have done that. And let me get my Bible here so I don't spill all the stuff I have in it. I'm going to be reading verses 7 through 12. Psalm 139, 7 through 12. This is David talking to God. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, or if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. David is saying, basically, wherever I go, God, you're already there. You're behind me, you're ahead of me, you're beside me. It's a psalm of comfort and confidence. Well, going back to those photos, here's what God spoke to my heart about. He said, whether you see my hand active in the things going on around the world, or whether you don't see it, I'm still here. I'm in control. I'm in more control now, or as much control, as I have been since the dawn of eternity. I haven't pulled back. I haven't changed. I'm still God, and I'm still active in history. And he spoke to me about those photos, and he said, you see the day photo, and it's just clouds and some blue sky. But at night, you see the beauty of the stars, and you see the vastness of the Milky Way. Well, that vastness and beauty of the Milky Way was still there at the daytime. I just couldn't see it. My eyes were not attuned to that beauty because of the light. And God was saying, whether you see me or not, I'm there. Whether you could see the Milky Way or not, it's still there. Your eyes were just not ready and in the right context to be able to experience the beauty of the Milky Way. I don't think anyone knows how this pandemic is going to turn out, how our lives are going to be affected going forward, but we can rest in this assurance. God has not left us. He hasn't moved away. And whether we can see that He's active in our world or not, He is still there. He's always been there. He will always be there. As we go through this pandemic, let's not forget the witness to our spirits by the Holy Spirit that assures us, just like the psalmist said, I can't go anywhere, God, that you are not. Whether we see Him or not, He's with us. I pray that you have a good week. I pray you stay healthy and safe and cautious. But I'd urge you this, be cautious, but don't live in fear. God is bigger than our fears. Live confidently and be careful. Thank you for listening for this video. Hope to have another one for you next week. We'll be in contact. And if you have prayer requests, be sure you get those to Vic. Be sure to pray for Clarence, particularly. He's having a tough time right now. Others in our department that you know of from the prayer list and the prayer emails. Thank you, and have a great week.